Hello everyone and welcome back to Crayon Code. Today we're going to build a responsive navigation bar which nicely collapses as soon as screen size decreases and is going to have a beautiful uncovering effect and an animated icon which changes from the burger menu to a close icon. So let's get started right away. Let's first create a blank HTML file, which is, if you type an exclamation mark and hit tab in VS Code, which is quite nice, it's going to create a blank HTML5 template. I shouldn't have hit enter here. So, and of course we want to turn on the line wrapping and get rid of that as it only takes unnecessary space. Document title is going to be subject of today's episode, the responsive navbar. And we are going to start with a simple header tag as it will contain our navigation bar. So let's open this in a live server. Very nice. Okay, yeah, I can see no styling is here yet, so we need a new styles.s, the CSS file, which we're going to include in the header of the HTML document via a link tag, which is simply going to have an href to styles.css and is of type text/CSS. So, okay, let's first take care of a few basic things. We are going to have a few variables. One for the foreground color, which is a slightly faded white, 90% to be precise, and a background color. We're going to work in a more or less dark theme today, so we have a dark background color, and a highlight primary, which is going to be a nice saturated blue color. Yeah, I can see it here. Good. Now I want to have the navigation bar height also in a variable, because we will be needing this throughout quite a few computations, so it's good to have this in one spot and not scattered everywhere. Okay, so yeah, let's first define on the HTML document a basic font size, which is then the basic font size for the RAM unit, and we're going to include another font, which is, let's actually take Nuneato, and with a fallback for sans serif. So, not font awesome, fonts.google.com. So, there it is. We will be only needing, I can see here, 100 is actually not available here. So we take the light style, make this a little bit bigger. So, yeah, we're only going to need the extra light style and a little bit more here. Let's take up to 400 and include this also inside the HTML header right here. Good. Okay, so now let's also put some basic CSS resets. So we unset margin and padding, or we set it down to 0, and the box sizing to border box on each and every element. So we're going to have a consistent display everywhere. Now for the body itself, we want it to be dark. So we use a dark background color, very nice. And the default color will be everywhere the foreground color. So we set it also on the body. And to make it actually expand to the entire screen, we set the min height to 100% of the vertical viewport height. So this is the VH, the vertical viewport height. Yes, vertical is always height, so the viewport height, that's what VH is there for. And if we put content into the body, we do not want it to be behind the navigation bar, which is why we introduce a padding top, which is just as large as the navigation height, so nothing will be put behind the navigation bar. So now for the actual header styling, we will set position fixed, because this is actually a good idea for navigation bars, because then it sticks to the top, and if the page is scrolled, it will always stick to the top. So actually, makes it always visible, which is quite in a few cases what we want for a navigation bar. So we put it to the top and stick it to the entire width of the page, so left 0 and right 0, and the height is going to be, you may have guessed, the navigation height variable. Good. And we want to increase the font size on that one to 1.5 rem to make everything inside a little bit larger. So now let's make it actually visible, which means that we are just giving it a border on the bottom of 1 pixel, bottom 1 px solid. And we're going to use the highlight primary for that. Highlight primary. Very nice. Yeah, and you can already see here, there's the navigation bar. Let's also put actually, yeah, I think it would look nice if we put box shadow, which is slightly shifted to the left and 2 pixels to the bottom, which is blurred by 8 pixel, no spread. And yeah, let's actually make this 80% off a black. Yeah, and you can see there's now a slight box shadow, which makes it a little bit more stand out. Very nice, that's how we want it. Good, now let's put actually some stuff into the navigation bar. First thing is we're going to use a logo on the left, which is quite common for a navigation bar, and this is going to be a font awesome icon. Feather alt, but now we still need to actually include that. So we're going to cdn.js and going to grab the most up-to-date version of font awesome and put it also into our navigation content here. Very nice. So the feather is already there. Nice. And for the navigation bar itself, we're going to put this in a contextual nav tag. And inside there, we're simply going to have an unordered list where we are going to put, yeah, let's make it actually three navigation items, where each one contains a link that points right now to nowhere because we do not have any other page. And let's put an icon inside. First one is going to be a bar chart, and it's going to be called dashboard. So let's make this out. Yeah, this one is also going to be copied. So next one is projects and posts, and here we're going to use the edit icon, still FA regular, very good, and an open envelope. Yeah, you can see here, quite ugly by the time, but we have our navigation items. That's all we need for now. So let's take care of quite a lot of styling. So let's actually make the header a display grid. We're going to have it as a grid container, which allows us to, or which is going to flow automatically in column direction. And each automatically created column is going to be sized to fit the content and do not make it wrap if there is text inside or multiple words. So that's how we're actually going to want it. Let me quickly check. Yeah, and I think we should also, yeah, let's put some color, the display color, the font color to be the foreground color. Yeah, you can see now we have some dots. They were going to be removed anyways, but we have some dots. Good. So now for the unordered list in our header, let's make this actually also a grid container. So we want all the navigation items next to each other, which means that we're going to also set grid auto flow to column mode. And again, each automatically created column is going to have the max content size, which means that again, fit the content, but don't make it wrap. And we're going to have exactly one row, which is one fraction of the entire available space. Since there are no other rows, it will consume the entire space in the vertical axis, which is there. And let's make there a gap between each item of 0.5 rem. And you can see now they're nicely aligned on that axis, which is actually quite good. And let's finally actually get rid of that ugly dots where we say that we do not have any list style items. Much better this way. Now let's also put some padding on it. Let's see, a little bit of a vertical padding and more of the horizontal padding. I think let's actually use 0 here because we will be aligning this vertically in a different way. So let's put 0 on the vertical axis now. Good. Now for actually each li, which is directly a descendant of the UL tag, is also going to be a grid container because we want the icon and the text align well together, and this one is going to have a padding of 0.5 rems. So here it's actually better to put the padding. Now for the link styling, this one is going to be a flex container where we align everything which is in there on the center along the actual layout axis. Yeah, sorry, this is orthogonally to the layout axis. Let's now get finally rid of the text decoration. We do not want anything to be underlined there. And the default color should be our foreground color, which we have defined before, much better this way. And since actually I want every navigation item to stand out a little bit, we are going to set black, which is also strongly faded down to 10%, but it will provide a small outline around each navigation item, so it actually makes it look quite nice. It will look a little bit better, I think, also if we are going to put a little bit more padding here. Yeah, much better. And let's actually round off all the corners by 0.25 rem a little bit. Not good to see here, but if we implement the hover effect, it will be much better visible. But there are a little bit more important things which we are going to take care first, which is the icon styling inside, because we want to put a little bit more space between the icon and the text, which means that the icon is going to get a right margin on the right side, which is 0.5 rems. Looks better. Let's give it actually a little bit more space. Yeah, but still that one should be standing out a little bit more, which is not hide, highlight primary. So it's going to be blue, and let's decrease the font size down to 1 rem because the rest is 1.5. So we have a good proportion between icon and text. And for reasons of completeness, let's now implement the actual hover effect on each of those links, which means that as soon as it's hovered, the background color is going to be the highlight color. Highlight. Keep messing up this word. So let's see. Yeah, very nice. And you can see that the icon disappears because it has the same color as the background color, which means that we are going to change that to, let's make it dark. We're going to use the background color for that. Yeah, perfect. Good. Let's make it look a little bit more nicer and introduce transitions on one hand for the background color, and we're going to put the transition parameters again in a variable. We'll define them in a minute, and we will also transition the color of the icon. So we're also going to use the transition variable here. So let's set up this one here. The transition is going to be, let's make it 250 milliseconds and an ease out curve, so it looks a little bit nicer. Good. Now let's also finally take care of the logo styling. I want the logo item to be centered horizontally and vertically, so we're going to use also grid container here, place the content in the center, and yeah, it's actually, we're going to have to shift the feather a little bit more to the right. So let's set up a little bit styling for the icon itself. Let's start with the background color. You want to make it stand out, so you're going to use the highlight, again messed up, highlight primary variable, and let's give it a darker color, so we're using the background color variable. Good. So let's actually take care of the padding. Let's give it some padding on all sides, and yeah, it's actually round off the top left with 50%, and let's do the very same for the bottom right, because it very nicely fits the contour of the feather. Yeah, very good. However, it's still sticking a little bit much to the left side, so let's fix this by introducing some padding on the logo itself. Now we have it shifted a little bit more to the right. Very nice. So that's the basic setup for the navigation bar. And now let's take care of the CSS code, which is responsible for making it disappear as soon as the window gets a little bit smaller, and for expanding it as soon as the user clicks the menu button. So for that, we will actually add some more markup, which means that we are going to put an input. I'm going to use just a checkbox because then I don't need actual JavaScript code for making it for making the menu appear and disappear. And it's going to have the class toggle, and I need an ID because checkboxes are quite bad for styling, and therefore I'm going to use a label which I need to reference in the for attribute the ID of the checkbox, because then if the label is clicked, the checkbox is also triggered, so I can hide the checkbox and do all the styling on the label tag itself. And yeah, it's actually put also a class on it. Oh no, let's use an ID, because it should anyways be only one label for that present, so we can safely use an ID. And I want to have this hamburger menu, which means that I'm going to put 3 bars in there. So, and that's all the new markup we actually need. So let's switch over to the styles and add some more styles. First thing is that we hide the checkbox, because you can see here there's a checkbox. We do not want that, so let's set it to display none. And at the same time, take care a little bit of the label, which means that by default it will be hidden, and it will have a cursor pointer as soon as it's visible. But now how can we achieve that it gets visible as soon as the screen size is below a certain threshold, which means that we're going to use a media query, which is only active on the screen medium and only active as long as the viewport width is below 768 pixels. Quite a common breakpoint. And the most important thing we're going to do as soon as the screen size is below a little bit below a certain threshold, that we reposition the navigation items, which is quite easily done through targeting the nav element, because we are going only to reposition the nav list itself, and the header, the rest of it will actually remain. So we're only going to target the nav, and we're going to set also position fixed here and stick it to the top and to the bottom, so full screen height, and to the very right. And let's actually set, how should I say, let's, for reason of simplicity, use 24 ems. And you can see something already changed here. Let's actually make it very well visible and put a nice background on it, which I'm going to put in a variable. So if we head to the top of our variable section, let's put a new one for the gradient, which is basically 3 linear gradients in different configuration. One is rotated by 300 degrees, BA4AFF, and is faded down to the very same color but transparent, so we have no other color codes interfere, and it will fade off at 60%. And you can see here first gradient is there, and this is how you can see how the navigation bar is actually now positioned. Let's now add the other gradients. One is going to be at 227 degrees, 008 AFF, and faded to the very same color, but this time transparent, and again at 70%. Did I actually mess something up? Let's see. Let's there a comma is missing here, so let's test it. Yeah, very nice, is there. And the last one tilted at 104 degrees, greenish color, and again faded down to, I think I forgot one here, again comma, and the hex number is missing a second F, so 255 198 and 0, and this time it's going to be at 74%. So we have a nice background for the navigation bar, and you can see that this is actually really cool about those media queries. As soon as you change screen width the styles are automatically reapplied or taken back depending on the media query. So we can actually really work nicely with that. So let's start with the easy stuff, which means that inside our media query styles down here, let's introduce some padding, because I want to have the first navigation item below the actual navigation bar, which means that we are going to set a padding top to the nav height variable. So I can see it's slightly shifted down, very nice. And for the more essential stuff, let's rearrange the navigation items. So we're going to modify the UL CSS code, which we're changing from grid autoflow, which was before column, and now we're set it to row. So we want to have everything aligned now vertically and not horizontally anymore. And let's override a few things. We are going to have only one column, which is as wide as possible, so 1FR. And the template rows, we are not having any template rows because we have been defining a template row before. Now we need to unset that to have it actually not take effect anymore while the navigation bar is in this mode. And the grid auto rows size configuration is going to be set to max content. Let's also unset the padding. Let's put it down to 0. Yeah, very nice. And should we actually, let's give it a try. Should we add a gap? Yeah, I like it that much. Yeah, much better. Okay, so now let's also override the link styling such that it has slightly different padding. Actually, I don't remember. Yeah, it's different from the default configuration, so we changed the padding and it's already aligned to left, so perfect. Let's keep it that way. But let's also change the icon color. So new selector. If the icon is directly inside the link, we are going to make it actually a dark color, BG color. Yeah, it looks much better this way. Now for the actual hover style. The link is going to be colored in the background color. Also for the darker background color. And let's see. Yeah, and of course then the icon disappears, which means that as soon as the link is hovered, the icon will get the highlight primary color. Didn't work again. So yeah, much better this way. But what we really don't want this time is that our navigation bar is expanded the whole time, because we have not much screen size, and this definitely is not what we want if it covers more than half of the screen. So we need something which allows us to expand and collapse the navigation bar, and this is what the checkbox is there for. So if the checkbox is not checked, which is this default state, we are giving the navigation tag a clip path. A clip path is there for cutting actually down the contour of an element. And we're using a circle here, which means that if the navigation bar is collapsed, it's going to be a small circle in the top right corner. And we're going to make it relative to the navigation height. So the navigation height is 3 rems, and it's good if it's only 1 rem here. And this is the radius of the circle. And now after the add keyword, we are going to put the center coordinates, which is, I want it to be on the x-axis to the very right, but slightly shifted to the left, and to be precise, the half of the navigation width, height, sorry. And for the y-coordinate, I want it to be to the top, but slightly shifted down, and again, the half of the navigation height. So you can see, navbar disappeared. Here is now only a circle, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to put the label inside that circle, and if the label is clicked, the checkbox is changed, and this will trigger setting another div clip path on the navigation tag. So that's what we're going to do now. So let's first take care of the styling of the navigation toggle label. So we have this one. Let's first define a size variable, because we're going to need that in quite a few spots. Let's also say that this is going to be a third of the nav height divided by 3, so 1 rem in the end. One more. That's too much, so now it's good. And we are going to have 3 bars. We also have already have the divs for the bars, and let's define the bar height to be 2 pixels. And the label itself is going to be a flex container, which will run in column mode. So the bars will be positioned below each other. And I want all items to consume all the space which is available. So we use space between. So the topmost bar is pushed to the very top, and the bottom one is pushed to the very bottom, and the center one is kept in the center. So we use space between. And the flex basis here is going to be auto, but I'm not sure if that is actually required. Let's see. Now for the actual dimension, we're going to use the size variable here for the first time for width and height. And we're going to push it a little bit to the left, which means that margin right is going to be nav height divided by 3. So I think we can also use, I think it will actually work, also use the size variable here. So let's actually make it visible. Okay, and it's still on the left side, which means that we actually need to revise the styling for the header itself as soon as the screen size is a little bit smaller. So let's make it this way, that we justify the content for space between. Again, the pushing everything to the left and right. And let's actually also say that we align the items to the center. And yeah, very nice. It's gone, but I think it's more an issue of the C index, which we're going to solve by here actually putting a C index of maybe 1. Let's put 2, because I think we're also going to have to modify the C index of the navigation tag itself. So let's keep it here for 2. And you can see it's already above the circle. And now we want to put the 3 bars. Each bar is going to have, not bar this time. It's going to have a default style, which means that it's going to be an inline block element. And we're using the bar height variable here for its height, so naturally, and size it for the entire width. And let's actually use a background color for the darker one, BG color. Yeah, and you can see we have 3 bars here, nicely aligned, perfect. Good. I think we can also now remove that debug color here. Looks much better. So now what's not really visible is that as soon as we click the label, the checkbox state is toggled, but we can actually react to that through CSS. And now let's this way actually first take care of rearranging the bars in checked and unchecked state. So we have our nav toggle, which identifies the checkbox itself, and through the checked pseudo class we can now react to the checked state, and the nav toggle label is directly next to it, so we use the adjacent sibling selector. And now for the first bar, which is the nth child of index 1, we are going to put a transformation. We are going to rotate it and translate it. So, and here the order matters, because those are basically matrices, and the order of how matrices are multiplied really matters. So we're first going with translate, and now let's calculate a little bit. We have the bar size, or the size of the entire icon. So we want to shift it to the center, and we are also going to subtract the bar height, because we want to have it centered perfectly. So we are actually not shifting on the x-axis, but we're shifting it to the center on the y-axis, and also such that there a little bit more is happening, rotated by 225 degrees. And you can see here this is what we're actually reacting to. The label is clicked, the checkbox is changed, and that's how also the transformation is changed. So let's also actually make this nice. Allow transitions on the transform property, which now allows us to see that it nicely turns. So good. Let's also take care of the lower bar. Nav toggle label. So this is the nth child of index 3. now, which is actually the very same transformation but slightly different. So we're going to rotate here by 135 degrees, so 225 minus 90, we have 135, and we are going to shift upwards, which means that we need to multiply this part here with -1, and we need to add the bar height divided by 2. So you can see perfectly aligned, and we have a cross, and now this middle bar is still a little bit disturbing, or let's call it superfluous. So we're actually scaling this one down to 0, which will also create a nice effect. So for the nth child of index 2, we are simply going a transformation with scale x down to 0, so it slightly fades in and out. Good. Now, to actually make the navigation bar visible again as soon as we're in open state, we need to apply a different clip path, which we are going to put on the nav tag. Is there? Yeah, there's a selector. Very nice. Good. Here we are inside our media query, so we need to also react to the checked state of the checkbox. And this time selector is a little bit more, should I say, complicated. So let's select the checkbox in checked state again. And now the direct sibling is the toggle label, which you do not care for right now. But one element further, we care about the nav element, which means that it's going to have another clip path and again a circle. So we want to actually cover it in the largest dimension of the viewport, and to give a little bit of a buffer, we use the 125 Vmax. So Vmax is the larger dimension of the viewport, which is either width or height, depending on which one of the both is larger. And we're going to have it still at 100% and 0% aligned to the circle. So yeah, very nice, already fits. So you can see, but it's still not animated. And the cool thing is clip path can be animated as long as it's the same shape. And since we're having 2 times the circle here, we can now add the clip path to the list of transitional properties. And let's actually use a different transition setup, a longer transition, which is going to be quite similar, but let's make it 500 milliseconds in this case. Transition long, otherwise we're overriding. Good. Yeah, and you can see now this nicely pops up and creates pleasant effect on this one here. So, and if we scale up again the window, here the navigation items return and the navigation bar is actually replaced here, and the circle disappears because the clip path is unset, because we do not have a clip path outside of the media queries, and the toggle label is also not visible because we have by default set it to display none here, the toggle itself and the label. That's actually already it. I hope you enjoyed creating this nice little responsive navbar with me. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next episode.